May I now welcome Aayush Ghosh Choudhury, co-founder and CEO at Scrut Automation, for the opening keynote on the emerging need for cyber asset attack surface management. Aayush is the co-founder and CEO of Scrut.io, a SaaS-based GRC tool backed by Lightspeed and India partners that makes InfoSec compliance radically simple, a problem statement that Aayush faced while building his earlier venture, GoMigo. Following the completion of his bachelor B.Tech degree at IIT Ropar, Aayush went on to work for companies like McKinsey and BPCL. He has also played a pivotal role as a sales head at Pando, a logistics SaaS company. Aayush, over to you.
All right. So as Scrut, we're doing this event for the first time, and I think it's very overwhelming as well as it's very joyous for us to have this group here. So, I mean, with the amount of expertise that's present in the room, we have some of the best cyber minds in the country. So I wouldn't even try to, hazard pretending to be the expert here. But I think what I represent a community of startup founders in India that's really trying to punch above their weight, both in terms of their geographical aspirations to grow internationally, as well as in terms of challenging some of the legacy companies out there. And what we've seen over the past few years is as large enterprise customers, both India as well as abroad, are now fairly open to working with challenger SaaS companies like us. They're fairly open to working with aspirational companies like us, but they also expect these companies to walk half the distance in terms of communicating a very strong information security posture. So I think for us, the selfish motive here is that with the amount of expertise present in this room, if we can take away certain things that, and there are a lot of startups that are really trying to up the game in terms of being secure. The attackers have become more mature, they've become smarter, and attackers don't have to face bureaucracy too. So they're on their toes all the time. So if we can collectively create a playbook, if we can take away pointers that we can actually share with my community of founders, that will be super exciting for us. And that's my most important selfish motive from here. I wouldn't actually talk too much about the numbers because we have a series of conversations after this lined up. I wouldn't talk about solutions because that's something that I would leave to the experts who are going to come up on the panel. But what I would definitely want to talk about is some of the problems that we have consistently heard about when it comes to how companies today are trying to manage their assets are actually facing consistently, right? And I would leave the house with questions, not with answers, because the answers will come from the experts. But if I were to just, I think this meme is something that sort of, captures the spirit of why CASM itself is important. CISOs ask questions to the different teams all the time, and nobody has the right answers. And that essentially forms the spirit. Now, in an age where companies have become cloud native, it's very easy to launch resources. Delegation of authority is also, sometimes a little relaxed, sometimes fluid. And assets, new resources are getting launched all the time, right? And no matter what framework we choose as the canon, no matter what framework we choose as the source of truth, all of them talk about having a very clean process around maintaining asset inventory, as well as processes and controls around them, right? But very few organizations actually have the confidence in the inventory. Now, we've seen some variations of the solutions. We've seen agent-based tools, we've seen network tools, but either those tools are siloed or are limited in their functionalities. So, CASM, while it's a new concept, Gartner has identified it as one of the very early on in the hype cycle. Less than 1% of the enterprises today use it. But I think it's important that collectively we evangelize it the right way so that people understand how powerful that is. And that is essentially the spirit behind doing sessions like this. But in terms of the problems that we've consistently heard from fellow founders, from fellow mid-market enterprises, and I'm just going to leave the house with problems because, as I said, the solutions are something that would get discussed as we progress during the sessions. But the first problem really is to identify how do I at any point of time have an authentic, genuine, real answer on what my asset inventory looks like, right? What assets do I have? What resources do I have? Now, the next problem is I do have resources, but what's the telemetry around that, right? Whether the inventory has changed, whether attributes have changed. What's the way to track that? And this is again one area where companies struggle because a lot of the companies, that we have dealt with while they need to comply with standards like SOC 2 or a NIST, they would maintain their asset registers on an Excel file, which is static, updated maybe once a quarter, once in 6 months, or even worse, right before the audit. And therefore, how do we keep track of this, right? How do we maintain hygiene around this? Also, while there's multiple approaches available as companies, as buyers, what really goes into evaluating these tools, right? Because tools that require a lot of on-prem deployment, tools that require agents to be deployed have a very long evaluation cycle, a very long gestation period to start showing value. The time to value is much longer. So what are the quick and dirty approaches to really have a quick way to evaluate? And finally, when we're talking about these assets, fine, assets are identified. But how do the relationships between those assets themselves impact how the attack surfaces get created, right? So which of your users, for example, have access to SSH keys? What critical assets are in the public domain? And if a critical asset goes down, what is the redundancy and what's the blast radius, right? How do we establish that? Now, I'll actually leave the group with this thought. And of course, we are GRC folks, so our heart lies in GRC at the end of the day. We do identify assets, we do identify the relationships, we identify the attack surfaces too, right? But how do we, as an organization, establish the right set of controls around them so that that information is fruitful, we're able to make sense of that information, and as an organization, we're completely sensitized, right? So I'll just leave the group with that thought. Again, not even trying to get into the solution, but thanks a lot for coming. Thanks a lot for taking time out. In Bangalore traffic means a lot for us. We're looking to learn a lot from you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.